Hello, hello, hello. I figured I would talk a big topic today on a Friday. Go in with a softball, spiritual fear. Why not? So excited for today. Friday. I'm going to wait for more people to join here. Today we're talking about the laws of cause and effect, and it's going to really come into influence these aspects of spiritual fear. So I was thinking, what is the question about spiritual fear? I want to ask, why are people afraid? Hello, hi Michelle. Good to see you. I want to understand why people are afraid, but when I started looking at this topic and what was the best way to approach it, that would be most, like the way I'm approaching this topic today is spiritual fear is based on, what would be most helpful for people to understand what is actually transpiring with spiritual fear. But then I think there's a poll. Hey, Eric, good to see you. I hope that you find a home that resonates with you and your family. Good to see you here. Full hearts, full hearts. Hello, doctor, you're back. Welcome back. Today's a big topic. So there's got to be a poll question for spiritual fear. I didn't even think of this topic. Somebody else did. And then I put a poll up. Hey, Sailor Life, good to see you. So excited. I love seeing the regulars here. Trying to think of what is the poll about spiritual fear. Because we already know that people have spiritual fear. But I think the question is, have you gone into your fears? No, most people don't go into their fears. So what is the question about spiritual fears that we can ask? Any ideas, Matt, or anybody here? Hello? Let me think for a moment while we let people join in here. Okay, we're getting some people in here. I'm going to start talking about the 5 aspects of spiritual fears, what causes it, okay? And then I'm going to go into 2 aspects that are the challenges. So sometimes it's helpful if you know the root cause, because if you know the root cause, it's no longer a mystery. But then there are also challenges when we have, even though we know the root cause, there still can be some challenges. Spiritual fear is an interesting topic. I feel like there should be a poll. I already polled what fears people wanted to talk about, which is where we came to spiritual fear. I guess we can ask, do you know, I'm going to start a poll. Okay, here we go. Do you know what causes spiritual fears? And I'm just going to keep it simple. Yes, no. Spiritual is the main about made. Spiritual is the main about to make us strong. We need to get fear about spiritual. It's spiritual belief about what we believe in God. Okay. Well, you're on to something here, doctor. So we're just going to let a few more people join in here. And I'll just do a short intro. My name is Kiana Sage. I guide people to peace. I do that through physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual alignment. Everything energetically runs in patterns. It always will follow the natural laws of how energy flows. If you don't know what the natural laws are, it'll be difficult for you to understand what's happening. And This week, we are talking about the natural laws of cause and effect. And essentially, our thoughts, our ideas, and our behaviors, they become aspects of which we will create cause and effect. And everything has a cause and effect. Everything will come to fruition. Now, what is so interesting about today's topic is we have this concept of spiritual fear, which is an interesting one because it's not one that I would say I have a lot of experience with. I'm not by nature a fearful person. I've always been kind of bold, but what I've found is it's really hard to get good information. It's really hard to get really good information. So here we go. I'm just going to go ahead and start. And so I actually wrote down what I consider to be at the root, the causation of spiritual fear. And of course, as I'm writing them, I'm not putting them in order. So I wrote them and then now I'm going to put them in order. So keep in mind the law of cause and effect, okay? When we have inner conflicts, that is an incongruence within us. That is like an inner polarity where we're having an inner conflict, okay? Most people that are experiencing an inner conflict, they don't take time to try and resolve that that inner conflict. That inner conflict sends out signals. You can imagine those are going to be mixed signals, okay? Before I go any further, just everybody in the comments, just know that I'm going to get to the comments after I present these 5 aspects, and then I have 2 bonus challenges that you might want to, and then I'm going to get into the comments. So when you have an inner conflict, you are going to send out what's called mixed signals, right? Whatever signal is running the strongest, meaning it has the most energy behind it, that is the signal that's going to kick in the cause and effect, okay? So you want to be really aware when you have inner conflict because it's best to have inner conflict resolved. 1, it feels a heck of a lot better in your body. 2, it gives you more clarity in which you can progress forward. And 3, what's the third thing about inner conflict? Is that, so it makes you feel better, gives you clarity. Let's see, the third one is, I'm thinking on the top of my head, it makes the path forward easier. Easier doesn't mean it's not filled with challenges. It just means that the lack of inner conflict makes the path forward easier to move. So if you are interested in pacing at all, this would be something you would want to learn how to navigate. So number 1 is the number 1 causation of spiritual fear is going to be inner conflicts, okay? The number 2 primary function of function of spiritual fear is going to be spiritual disconnection or, I'm going to put these 2 together, dysfunction. So spiritual disconnection or dysfunction. So we all know, well, I'm just going to assume that you all are in agreement. You might not be, but I'm just going to assume that this is how I'm basing it off of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies. We all have those access points within us. When we have a lot of spiritual fear, there's going to be disconnection within the spiritual body. That spiritual body is going to directly impact your emotions and your mental and your physical body. Why? Because these aspects all work to be unified. And when we have spiritual disconnection or dysfunction, meaning it's not in alignment, it emerges in the physical body. Why is that? Because our physical body is part of our spiritual body. It's not separate. It's one and the same. It's just discussed as a separate aspect because it's easier for people to understand. Because if we say light bodies, most people don't understand that light is an energetic force. So a lot of our language in which we understand energy has also been very confusing for many. So the third aspect that's the causation of spiritual fear is rejection. You know, people are rejecting themselves. They're running what's called self-hate. They run hate of others, hate of men, hate of women, and that rejection is simply, who am I? They don't know who they are. So if you don't know who you are, the ego mind will go into this aspect of rejection to keep the status quo. It doesn't mean that it's working in a holistic way. So does that make sense to you? So you want to know and answer the question, who am I? And when you have the answer of who you are, that will help navigate this aspect of spiritual fear so it doesn't drive your decisions and your choices. Number 4 aspect of causation of spiritual fear is that many people are operating off of what's called misinformation. It became very popular this year, and misunderstanding. So how they are understanding the spiritual body, the spiritual aspects of their own energy is incorrect, based on a lie, an untruth, whatever you want to call it. And that causes a lot of fear, because when you have lies driving your decisions and it feels incongruent, you could see how these all kind of like layer onto each other, and that makes it really difficult for people. And number 5 is really based on something that's very real in the spiritual realm, is that there are what's called spiritual attacks. And these attacks tend to lock people into the lower realms of energy, and that keeps them locked in to lower realms of access of consciousness. Because when you are fully connected to your spiritual aspects, and you are willing to look at yourself holistically and, you know, question, willingness to question things, you will know that attacks happen, and you will have a strong inner congruence. When you have spiritual fear, that strong congruence is weakened. In fact, it is torn apart. So it makes you weak having spiritual fear. And you have to be able to withstand attacks, because there is a war on consciousness right now. And it really is, if you are fully embodied in your spiritual body, you will have access to higher levels of consciousness. Those levels of consciousness are higher qualities of information. It's not better, it's not worse, it's different. And it has a different frequency, and it's not going to be one of judgment. Okay, so those are the 5 aspects of causation of spiritual fear. The challenges, I have 2 challenges that are very common that people run up against. And the doctor here, he so eloquently spoke to it in his chat earlier on when we first jumped on here, which is when you have spiritual fears, the challenge is that you must look at your beliefs. And how many people really want to challenge their beliefs? How many people do you know that are willing to challenge their beliefs? Because when beliefs get challenged, you know, the ego rears up, and people go into defensiveness, and they get offended easily. And what I've realized, and I've seen this happen this week things are up because people are triggered by the truth. And when the truth is different than what somebody holds dear to themselves, they will have an ego reaction. That happens when your beliefs are being challenged. And sometimes your beliefs are challenged by your reactions. That's an indicator that you might want to look at something. If you get defensive, if you get offended, if you are unwilling to accept that other people have different beliefs, and all of us who have been on this channel and have been watching what happens in the chat, you see the polarity. This chat is a real good glimpse into the collective consciousness and how triggered people will be by something that they do not believe in. And by the way, you do not have to stay here. If what I'm saying doesn't resonate with you, feel free to keep moving. This is what's so beautiful about this platform, is that you don't have to stay here if you don't like it. Take what resonates and keep moving. Take what will work for you, and then when you're ready to come back and learn something different and maybe challenge your ideas, go for it. But your belief system is really what is at the root of any fear. Spiritual fear, mental fear, emotional fears. It's going to be rubbing up against a belief system. So the willingness to challenge your own beliefs and just be curious, like, what do I believe? And here's the next one, is challenges. Number 2 is when we have spiritual fears, often what gets hit up against, right up against your values, your core values. And I would say the vast majority of people do not understand what they truly value, and therefore it becomes even more complex because they can't name why they feel the way they feel or why they believe the way they believe, because they don't have any foundation that they can grasp. And that lack of being able to say, yes, I believe in this, causes them to have more fear. So, and then when you say you believe in this, and then you get information that maybe is not what you thought it was, then are you willing to shift? Like, I had a conversation with a client just the other day, and they thought they were one way, and when I presented an alternative, they realized, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I'm not like that way where it's most important. They just didn't have the awareness. That doesn't mean that they're not willing to learn and grow. It's that sometimes we're just not ready to see ourselves as we truly are. And we get held into these ideas of who we want to believe we are, and it's incorrect. So knowing who you are is really important. And you could see how all of these things kind of build on each other. And now you see why spiritual fear is such a huge component of so many people's everyday life. And spiritual fear, how different is that from mental fear or emotional fear? All fears are of the mind. So all of it is disconnecting you from the heart, which is at the root of who you are, is your heart. And yet so many of us are walking this earth without a real connection to our heart. Because why? Because we feel like we need to protect it. Who told you you needed to protect yourself? What beliefs are those tied to that you need to be in protection? When you have a deep connection with who you are, with where you are from, with creation, source energy, God, whatever God you believe in. I'm not questioning any of them. When you know that, you don't have to defend anything. You don't have to fight anything, because it's you. It's your belief, and you don't have to argue that to anybody. Anyways, so curious to hear what you all think about this topic so far. I'm going to go back to the top here and see what you're saying and what you think. And yes, thanks Matt for being here and helping out in the comments. Spiritual is the main about making us strong. Yes. Okay. Sailor's Life is saying karma. What do you mean by karma and spiritual fear? You think that spiritual fear is a part of karma. I don't know that I would totally agree with that. Mick is saying a lack of understanding. Yeah, I agree with you, Matt. Spiritual fearlessness is a part of the ego mind. When the ego mind is given too much power, and Matt's giving his opinion. Well, what I would say, not power, because there's no power in the ego, really, right? Anybody who has walked the path of their heart knows that the mind is not the one that's got the power. All of our power really resides in our heart. Which is a part of the spiritual fear and the spiritual war that many people are under. Everybody's under, really. Nobody is excluded from this war on consciousness because it disconnects you from your real power. Because if you know you are powerful in your heart, your thoughts are weak. It's your heart that's strong. Doctor is saying spiritual fear. Maybe people can get when they get less connection with God. True. Yeah, I agree with you. When we fully connect with God, God can make us more stronger in our spiritual life. Co-creation. We're always in co-creation. Well, Eric is saying fear the devil. But Eric, there's no need to fear what is not powerful. That's the whole point of when you really address the core issues, the core causes of spiritual fear. You don't need to be in fear of anything because the devil doesn't have the power. When you are in your heart, that's the power. Mr. Lava, the topic is spiritual fear. If you're on here right now, please vote. Do you know the causes of spiritual fear? Okay. Your background, I can see beautiful eyes of your child or a lady. I don't know. Very nice to see. Yes, beautiful eyes. It's a nice painting. I agree. When we are able to separate our physical body from our mind, we can be able to understand that we can. I don't know what you're saying here, doctor. I don't know what you're saying. Unbalanced ego will sink you big time. Yeah, Mick. I mean, I really try not to talk too much about the ego because if there's anything that's going to trigger the trigger the chat here, it's going to be the ego. You know, beliefs are easier to talk about than the ego, even though when you talk about beliefs in general terms, people don't tend to be as triggered. But you can see any talk about God, creator, spiritual, people have really strong views on it. I'm simply posing my perspective. We all have our own unique relationship. And I think when we are able to speak and learn from one another, we can grow. Just looking to see question. Oh, I already got through all the questions. All right. Mick is saying amen. I am spiritual, yes. I think alignment is all about being spiritual. I think the body is a vessel, and it's a vessel for spirit. And yes, so yeah, I do believe that. I don't think it's value added to talk about voting here. And I'll say this, that most people are so polarized with their beliefs about whatever candidate they believe is good or bad. I think it's best not to even go there. I really don't care. I had somebody ask me my opinion the other day. A girlfriend of mine asked me my opinion the other day about somebody or something, and I gave my opinion, and then they said they were offended. I was like, how can you be offended when you asked my opinion? And I didn't even say anything about you, and I didn't even say anything bad. I didn't say anything. So people get offended so easily. People are so unstable. Fear is someone's dependency of control. Interesting. I love it. It is the unknown, the fears of many non-faith spiritual people. True. It is faith in something greater, higher, etc. that brings peace and conquers fears. I think it's the unchallenged fears that allows people to be controlled. And why don't people challenge their fears? Because they think that if they go into their fear, they will learn something new, and that new is unknown. And the unknown scares a lot of people because people want to hold on tightly to what they know, even though it's not good for them. And so, I find it very curious. I talked to a friend the other day that was talking about how much physical pain they were in. And I made the assumption that if somebody's in a lot of physical pain, they would want to get out of the pain and do something to get out of the pain. But that was an assumption. I should have asked, what do you do? Do you have interest in getting out of the pain? But they don't. And they just want to take a pill, and that's okay. That's for them. That's not for me. What kind of question is that? You know where spirituality originated from. What kind of question is that? It comes in at birth and before. So what kind of question is that? Learning is an endless process. We are a drop in the water, a very big ocean. We can never be an ocean. Learning means we are living, growing day by day. Yes, but if we are unwilling to challenge our own thoughts, our own beliefs, our own ways, if we don't go into reflection or inquiry, what is that? And doctor, you clearly have learning as a high value. Learning is one of my top 10 values. I love to learn. I love to learn about other people. I've always been a curious person. I love to learn. And I learn about myself because I want to grow and I want to evolve and I want to be stronger. I want to be more in service to humanity in ways that I can. And so that requires change. And a lot of people are afraid of change. Maybe a sailor's life is saying maybe the fear is a reflection of some situation or something that has happened in the past. Or sailor's life, maybe it's this war on consciousness. How many people on here think that we're at war over your consciousness? Why do you think fear is promulgated so much? Do you think about that? Do you think about where the fears are coming from? Why are they here? Did your family always have fear? Why? Why is fear a part of the life that you are living? I'm just going to look and see. So more than 50% of y'all think that, what is it? 57% don't know the cause. So let me review the causes. We have 36 people in here. I'm going to review the causes of spiritual fear right now. First one is inner conflict. Second one is spiritual dysfunction or disconnection. The third one is rejection. You simply hate of self, hate of others, hate of men, hate of women, and you don't know who you really are. That is number 3 causation. Number 4 is operating off of some kind of lie, misinformation, or misunderstanding of the information, and you haven't gone back to challenge it. So this happens very much when kids hear something as a little kid and they hold on to it as a belief, and then as they get older, they never went back and challenged that belief. We must look at those things that we carry with us throughout our lives to see if it still fits. Number 5 is, there's a lot of real attacks that keep people locked into lower realms. So those spiritual attacks will keep people in fear. So those are the 5 main causations of spiritual fear. Why is it important to know what causes spiritual fear? Because if you don't understand the cause, how do you get to the root? You must go to the root. Okay, let me see. Questions. Telex, you obviously don't follow me. I don't read the Bible. That's not for me. It's not my shtick. It's not what I enjoy. So I don't have a version that I attest to. And there's so many versions. So, how do you know which one is the one for you? You have to resonate. None of those are resonating with me. Somebody is asking if I'm a spiritual healer. People use all different kinds of labels. I don't know that that's, I would say teacher maybe, but yes, I do healing. Talax is saying that the U.S. seems to be in a countdown to a pivotal moment. Whatever happens in the United States, as you all know, is going to be a ripple. So nothing is in isolation. When we are talking about the natural laws, we are talking about how energy works. And what happens here ripples everywhere. So everything affects something else. So we just need to be aware. Okay. Your comments won't be deleted if they're in kindness, love, and learning. Okay, somebody has a deep question. Is love real like some father love? I don't even understand your question here. Airman saying we have to unlearn the programming from these worlds. Yes. So many people don't really understand that we are very much like a computer system. We get conditioned, programmed, triggered. One thing will go into another thing, which will cause a spiral. They have bonds. There's all kinds of things. I don't follow any religious dogma. I follow the natural laws. Oh, thank you, Ivan. Ivan's coming from Russia. Oh, wow. Thank you. Mick, I don't know what you're saying here. Raj is saying a spiritual person is beyond religion. I have not heard that. But I would say, we all have our path. It's a good topic, Doctor is saying. It will be more useful who can understand deeply in your subject. These topics come from you all. This is not something that I even really wanted to talk about, but I thought it was important when I put up a poll and people answered the poll. And it's come up a couple times. It even came up yesterday, so I thought I would dive in. oftentimes I don't really know what the best way is to approach a topic. Every topic that I talk on here, I try to provide a unique way to look at things that is most helpful for whoever's listening to expand and evolve. And anybody that's willing to learn and grow will find the videos on here, helpful in seeing maybe a different perspective. Even if it's just like one shift that you can have, it can just open up so much of your heart. Man is saying there's a lot of effects that happen psychological on health when changing the mindset or life. Not easy to adopt. Well, a lot of people talk about mindset, but I think what's really important is mental flexibility. And mental flexibility is really helpful, especially when talking about fears, because fears create rigidness. They create a mindset. Mindset is not the ideal. Any successful person, and depending on how you define success, but for me, success is based on vitality, openness, and connection. Those are successful elements to me. Anyways, just thought I would say that. My question is love real? And he's saying a father's love for his son is very much, but what if someday I grow and tell him that this is not his child, but for someone else, then there does. Okay, love is not limited to the constructs of the mind and what your limited ideas of role and identity are. Love is a frequency, okay? It's not just a word, and it's not associated with a particular relationship. It's actually a frequency that you hold in your heart. So is love real? Yes. Does everybody have their hearts open to love? I think you are answering the question already for yourself, is that you think love is determined by a relationship, and that is a very limiting perspective of love. Do you believe do you believe committing fornication before marriage is acceptable? I am not here to judge you or anybody else. You all live by your own beliefs, and I think you putting these types of questions in here shows how limited you are in what you are willing to find acceptable for other people. But my question to you is, what good does it do you to believe something that keeps somebody locked into a judgment? What good is that? Why do you need to judge anybody and what they're doing? That's none of your business. If you have a belief that it's not good, then follow what you believe is good for you. That's where integrity is. But don't take your beliefs and apply it to everybody else and saying everybody else needs to believe this. That's silly. Doctor is saying religion, I think you're saying region, I think you're saying religion is the path to reach our final destination. I don't agree with you on that. I don't think that you need to go to a religion to have a relationship with God. That's my experience. A spiritual person understands the manipulation and application of religion. Most religion are rooted in lessons of spiritual, and spiritual rooted into practice, said lessons are expanded. I don't know what you're saying there, but I will say that, any organization is ripe for manipulation when people are unwilling to challenge beliefs or tap into what feels right for them. What feels right for one person may not resonate with another. Arsh is saying it's just chemical. Love doesn't exist. It's so interesting. What you're talking about is limerence, and that is a chemical expression of the experience of love, which is different, and it will change. My question, do you have an idea of sound of silence? I do. What do you think if someone got enlightened, does his life change? I think, first of all, I love the sound of silence. In fact, today I did one of my favorite things, one of my favorite new hobbies is a silent tea ceremony, which I host online with a group of people that like to drink tea. And we do a tea ceremony in silence. And the silence takes on different frequencies, takes on different sounds, and it feels different every single time. So every tea ceremony is a different experience. And I learned about the sound of silence when I was starting my grad school. And I had to do this activity, which was sing. I had to sing a note, and I had to sing the note when the class was ready to hear. Well, I didn't know how much time had passed, but I waited until the group. This was my first experience of seeing energy, light energy, was in grad school, and it was during this experience where I had to sing this note, and I had to wait until the class was ready for me to sing this note. And so I just was present, but I was present because I was seeing the energy, and I had never seen the energy like that before. I had seen things in the past, but I had never seen frequencies between people in the space like I was seeing them, and it was very new for me. So I was more just amazed. Long story short, I didn't find out until after the class and after I sang my note and that whole thing was all done that I had waited like 15 minutes before I sang my note. So it was utter silence, but you could hear the frequency. So you knew the readiness. And even for me, like there was times when I thought that they were ready, but it wasn't ready. It wasn't the right time. So you had to feel the readiness. And that's really how I learned how to do group energy. And that's how I got to be so successful in working with teams. I would take dysfunctional teams, like highly dysfunctional teams, and get them to high performing. That's what I did for a good portion of my career. I don't work with teams the same way anymore because I have different skills now that helps me. I don't need to measure because the results are much faster now. But I used to measure and incrementally measure, so my teams had a grasp of concepts and ideas. But when you are present and you understand how groups work and their ability to shift with change, it's really fun and exciting, and it's very alive. Now, it's very uncomfortable for the vast majority of people to work that way because most people like to prepare and they like to know what they're going to experience. But when you're in the present moment, there's no determining that. You just are there for whatever needs to happen. Stump Busy is saying, but every religion has a God, right? Well, they have a God in which they promote for sure. I haven't gone to every religion. I have to be honest. I have investigated some Christianity, LDS, obviously Hinduism, Buddhism, I haven't done a lot of Catholicism. I haven't done every religion. Heck no. I've taken religion courses. I've done that kind of thing. But it really just doesn't resonate with me. It never has. I don't mind learning about it. But I always am fascinated by why people believe what they believe. Raj is saying, in reality, we are all God, but we forgot because of the ego. Interesting. Matt, thank you. Okay. Some people, doctor is saying we are attached with religion. I think attachment is an interesting thing because a lot of people don't understand. I just saw Matt saying my glasses match my sweater. Thank you. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I got a new hoodie. I love hoodies. I think that, there is this thing called mind wiped. Where people have been it's called that. So it just would depend if you want to go into research and look at that more. But it would challenge the vast majority of people to understand about being mind wiped. But it essentially, it keeps people from knowing their true past. And do we really know our history? Do we really know our history? The answer is no. And because we don't know our history, this allows these other aspects to move forward. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for the comment there and the compliment. I appreciate that. I noticed here the other day that I'm not very comfortable accepting the compliments on here. So I just wanted to take time to shift that for myself and say thank you, because I do know that there's a lot of comments on here that are not complimentary. And so I should take time to say thank you for those that take time to write the nice things here. No, this is not a political channel at all. So we're just about at 50 minutes here, and it looks like I've gone through all the questions. I really thought there would be something more interesting that came out of this, but I really hope that you found this supportive and helpful. You're talking... no, I'm not talking about the sound of silence. In silence, just trying to focus on sound that's coming from the environment is totally silent. Then you will, I don't know what you're saying here about the silence. Don't you think that we would all perceive silence differently, right? We all have a unique experience. We all have a different access point in which we're listening. Like if you're listening to silence from your ears, you're going to hear things differently than if you listen to silence from your heart, right? Oh, interesting. You're saying it's a movie. So you're promoting a movie here. I'm writing it down. I'm not sure I resonate with it, but I will... Sounds like you're promoting something. And I heard that there was a movie called The Sound of Silence too, right? I did not see that. Oh, a motivational speaker. Okay. Okay. Oh, well, it sounds like you're promoting whoever that is. You're not promoting them. It's a session. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate people sharing information that they think is helpful, as long as you're not pushing it on me. That's one of the things that I find, that when people are pushing things on other people, when people don't resonate with it, just because you like it doesn't mean everybody will like it. But I appreciate your gentle nudge here. What makes you think I don't have an ultimate spiritual experience? What would make you think that? I mean, you've been on here one big chunk is saying spirituality is a joke. Well, hey, if you want to deny who you are, then that's your choice. But ultimately, you will learn. And that's the whole thing, is that we are all on our own path here. We are all on our own path. And we all have a different experience of what we're here to learn. And I think it's so important that we get in touch with our soul. And we can't get in touch with our soul if we're not in touch with our emotional body. And if we don't acknowledge our emotional body, if we don't look at the emotions that we deny, if we don't look at our shadow aspects, I mean, how are we going to evolve? How to be, somebody's asking, how to be calm during a stressful situation, for example, during an exam. Well, your training is going to be key. So how prepared are you for the exam is going to determine a lot of the stress. That's number one. Number two, do you have a breath practice? When you are in connection to your heart, it's going to be easier to go into a breath practice and to feel calm and at ease. I hope that helps you. So if you're preparing for an exam, when I was racing, I used to prepare for the race before the race. So are you doing pre-tests? How are you preparing? Those things are all really important for how we operate under stress. Okay, thank you. Mick, it's just really interesting to see that, huh? Oh, Big is saying, nope, people, well, I think, Big, you're actually onto something here. There are people who have had their souls hijacked. And that's why I'm saying there's a war on consciousness. People don't believe they have a soul. You can almost guarantee they are contending with some nefarious energies, no doubt. I was talking to somebody this last week who was very afraid to be in their heart, and their partner was, doing some things that were very nefarious and had really dark energies attached to it. You cannot be immune from these things if you're around them. Big, I hope that you, you're here for a reason, Big. So I just want to offer you this opportunity that if you have any emotions, that means that you have access to your soul. If you are emotionless, that means that you are dead. If you are denying your emotions. Now, if you're one of those people that has murderous thoughts, if you are one of those people that has thoughts about hating and hurting other people, that would be an indication that you have been taken over. Because those are not natural ways of thinking. Those are being overtaken. So I'd offer to you that if you're not there yet, there is a chance that you could go there if you believe you have no soul. So really, I offer you that you are here to evolve your soul. That's part of the human experience. Matt. Everybody does have an opinion. Human intuition, that is what it is. I'm not going to judge anyone. It's my opinion. Human intuition is very different than having soul. Those are very different technologies, really. Because intuition is a technology. Being telepathic is a technology. Having empathy is a technology. Having compassion is an expression. So those are emotions. Okay, y'all. It's just about an hour here. I appreciate you being here. And enjoying this discussion about spiritual fear and just looking at it from a different perspective. I had never looked at what the causation was, so I really thought it was interesting. I hope you found it helpful. My name is Kiana Sage. I guide people to peace through looking at patterns, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. I'm here every day doing these YouTube lives. Thank you so much to Matt for being on here and helping in the chat. Tomorrow we're going to be here between 12 and 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. If you're new here, you'll want to put your notifications on because I never know which time I'm going to come on. Yes, self-mastery. Yes, self-mastery. Thank you oh, hey, Michelle, you're still here. Good to see you. Thank you so much. See you all tomorrow. Have a great Friday. Namaste, everybody. Bye.